Wait a minute. This isn't my world. Disappointed!
The same thing with Damage. Those covers were all
so great.
We had, Robert and I sat around and talked, Robert Venditti, about what we were doing, and we knew what we were doing. And so, at least in general terms, right? And so then I would go in and pull out a scene from, or close to a scene from that issue that would make you hopefully want to buy the comic.
Yeah, you throw it on steroids and make it even crazier that it's going to be in the comic book, and you got to go in and see it.
Right. I mean, I had a cover where I knew Batman was going to be the guest star in the issue, and I had Damage crushing the Batmobile, and with Batman in the car. And of course, that didn't happen in the issue, but him and Batman did fight in that issue, and I knew there was going to be conflict, and that, and I knew sort of what was going on. So I just kind of picked an image that I thought that showed a lot of power, and that, obviously there's going to be conflict between these guys. And the same thing when the Justice League showed up. I knew the Justice League was showing up, and I knew they were going to be fighting, so let's do a Justice League cover with Superman fight. I knew Superman was going to show up. I didn't know all the details, but I was able to create a scene that hopefully would make someone go, oh, wow, yeah, I want to see that. So.
I miss Damage. Do you understand what happened with that comic? Why didn't it catch on? It was so good. It was the best Hulk comic you could buy, like on the stands, until Immortal Hulk kind of took off. It's like there for a while, like there was nothing touching as far as like a crazy monster comic, superhero comic.
Well, okay, there's that, and we talked about independent stuff and reaching your audience and stuff like that, and one of the challenges, even it's a challenge for comic companies like Marvel and DC that have established characters, is bringing in new characters. People just seem resistant to new characters. Maybe they don't have faith that it's going to last, which in most cases they don't, right? And so it's hard to get an audience to buy into a new character. If you introduce that new character in the X-Men, and then everybody kind of gets to know that character, and then you spin them off, you're probably going to have some success. But when you just start a whole new line, it was essentially what Dan DiDio did with those. I can't remember what you probably
Age of Heroes.
The what?
New Age of Heroes.
The New Age of Heroes, right? Those were all new characters, and there was some really good. Kenneth Roca was working on one of those books, and he's a terrific artist. And but I think one of the problems was, and I got really mad at them, because they came to me on issue 9, right? And they said, hey, can you take over this book where it's kind of floundering? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it over. But I said, why didn't you just hire me from the beginning? Why wasn't I on this book from issue number 1? Because I would still be on it, and it wouldn't be floundering right now. We'd have consistency. People know what they were getting. But I was the 4th artist on that book by the 9th issue, which is just absurd, right? And
it is such a good book. It was so well written. The character was so amazing. Fight was it Superman or Wonder Woman that had that great fight?
Superman.
Yeah, it's Superman. That one's early on. That was before you were illustrating, I believe.
Oh no, actually, you're right. I'm sorry. He did fight Wonder Woman before I got on. Yeah. That was really early because I
it's like issue 2 or 3.
Yeah. What
Tony artist, was it Tony Daniel? Was it
Daniels? He launched the book, but I think everybody knew he was going to leave after 3 issues, and it was kind of like, I get the idea that they wanted whoever they thought was hot at the time to launch these books. They'd open big, but it's like you do a disservice to your fandom when it's kind of a bait and switch, right? It's like David Finch is going to draw this book. You're like, ooh, and then he's gone after the 2nd issue, and you're like, well, okay, why did you tease me with this if it's not going to be this? People want consistency, right? And so I should have launched the book with Robert, and then there wouldn't have been a problem because they wouldn't. One of the issues they had was Tony Daniel, first of all, wasn't going to stay. They knew that, so he was gone. Then they brought in Kerry Nord, who I like a lot. I love his stuff, but for some reason they didn't. I remember talking to Kerry about this, and it was like they didn't like the way he was interpreting the character or something, but I thought it was really cool. But what do I do,
awesome.
Right? so then they had I think a Brazilian artist. I don't remember his name, but there was a language problem, and he wasn't. And all these Age of New Hero books were all done Marvel style, the old Marvel style, where we were getting plots. And so a lot of weight, because Dan wanted these to be art books. He wanted the artist to have a lot of say in how these books looked and turned out. I mean, Dan was very old school in a lot of ways. And he sort of liked that idea. And so I'd be getting, like, from Robert, we'd sit there and we'd have, discussions about the stories, but then I would get a script, for example, like when he was fighting the Justice League around issue 10 and 11, whatever, and he fought Superman. And I literally had like 8-page blocks where Robert would just go fight scene between Damage and Superman. And so basically start here, make sure it ends here. And so I was choreographing the entire fight scene. Beautiful. And then Robert would go in and dialogue it based on what I drew. So it was harder work, but it was a lot of fun too, because you had so much input into what was going on visually. And so anyway, this artist they were working with before me was having a hard time with that.
Diego Nieves. Diego Nieves.
Okay, yeah, he was apparently having a hard time with that aspect of it, right? So they felt they needed to make a change, and so that's when they brought me in. Aaron, can you help save this sinking ship? And I thought Robert and I did some really good work on that, but excuse me, but the problem was that book was already plummeting because of the inconsistency and
technically there were 5 artists, because there was actually one issue illustrated by Clayton Henry as well.
Oh, was there one in there? Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because they brought me in first on that annual that I did, which was a absolute blast, because I hadn't worked Marvel style in ages. And I got this script, and it was just, most of it was just monsters fighting, right? Robert would have the important character stuff in there that needed to be done. But then when the fighting started, it was just kind of like, whatever.
Have at it.
So yeah, so I remember one sequence in one of these monsters damaged, because they were in this, I don't know, not a silo, but kind of what would you call it, where the military kept all their weapons and stuff in a
hangar?
Yeah, a hangar that was kind of an partially underground hangar, and they had all this,
like a bunker.
Yeah, bunker. Thank you. And had all this explosives and stuff. And I had this one scene where Damage took a handful of these like bombs and took them and shoved them in this monster's mouth, and then punched him, and then they exploded, and blew his head off, And it was like, that was just me, it was like me trying to come up with an idea that would be, well, what haven't we seen? How can I, I got to extend this fight scene for 12 pages. So what am I going to do, kind of thing. And so that was one of those moments where I kind of stood back and I was kind of proud of myself. I said, that was pretty crazy, to come up with that. That worked pretty well. So it was a lot of fun getting to do that stuff. And
I remember the last story arc there, they go to Monster Island, right?
Yeah.
I bet that was a kid in a playground.
Yeah, well, I probably suggested that to Robert. I can't remember exactly, because we were at New York at the same New York show. We were at dinner, and Jamie Rich was the editor, and Robert and I went to dinner, and we talked about different story ideas and stuff. And I had wanted to, I said, why don't we bring Deadman in? Just because I wanted to draw Deadman, right? And so Robert was, really came up with a great idea of how to use him, where he come in and, took over Damage so that they could, reason with him and find out what was going on, which I thought was a brilliant way because it was like one of those things. It wasn't like Deadman just showed up and because we wanted him in the story. He actually made it work, the why he would be there and how they could use him. But I also said, well, what about the Spectre? Can we somehow work the Spectre in? I was wondering all these, monster characters and ghost characters that I was a fan of when I was a kid. And Robert came up with this really great idea of, using the Spectre to judge Damage, right? But the problem was he ends up getting the kid, because he's only damaged for what, 60 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm. Then he has to wait 24 hours.
24 hours again, right? So Damage does all this damage, and so the Spectre's coming down to judge Damage, but instead he gets the kid instead because he turns back into his normal human self. So how is the Spectre? How is he supposed to handle this? Can he judge the kid for what Damage did, even though he doesn't really have control? You know, so it was really this kind of cool, sort of esoteric, story arc that we were going to do. And then, but I don't know if it was Dan or Bob Harris kind of nixed it. They didn't really like it. So we didn't end up doing that. We ended up going, okay, well, let's go to Monster Island and have them beat up a bunch of monsters. And so that's kind of what we ended up doing. And I'm pretty sure it was Robert's idea to bring in Congo Bill and Congorilla, which I thought was just hilarious.
Loved it. So much fun.
And I also we did that riff on Fing Fang Foom. And that was one of my favorite covers where we had Damage was eating Fing Fang Foom on the cover. He's sitting around a campfire chewing on this big bone, and this Fing Fang Foom dragon was laying dead behind him. So we had a little bit of fun with that too. So it was a great series, and I would have loved to have kept doing it because like you said, it was a great Hulk book, and that's what it was intended to be. Yeah. And
nobody knew it was there for some reason. Yeah. But I think it's when you launch like 6 or 7 new titles in that short amount of time. Like you said, every single one of them within 6 issues had a new artist on it. Most of them it was within the first 3 on New Age of Heroes. I think the Jim Lee one, I don't think he even did the first issue.
Yeah, and I think that just sends a wrong message to the fans. I know that, editorially, you're kind of looking at your bottom line. You have to be not only you're dealing with the creative side of it, but you have to look at the bottom line, right? And you're thinking, okay, well, if we can somehow talk in these guys that are used to working on Batman and stuff to do this for just 3 issues, it'll launch really big and we'll make a lot of money on these 3 issues, but it's not good for the longevity of the title, and I think consistency, you get a good team on there that is consistently bringing it on time every month. That's how you build an audience for a book, and that just didn't happen. And like I said, it was a sinking ship by the time I came onto it, and we just, I think it was probably destined to be canceled before I even drew the first, page. I think Dan was hoping, he really wanted it because he really wanted that monster book as part of the new monster characters, part of the DCU, and but I think the writing was on the wall. Unfortunately,
it's crazy when you think about Damage that you worked on, and even who was it, Victor Bogdanovich? I know he took over for Silencer. It's like you should just launch it with those creators. They were the perfect artists for the book to begin with.
Yeah. I don't. I sometimes I don't understand the thinking. I mean, I do and I don't, because I know that Tony Daniel had Spawn in his background and had done some other stuff for them, but I don't necessarily look at Tony as being a bigger name necessarily than I was at the time. And so it's kind of like, get the guy that is going to be on the book and will stay on the book. It just seemed like would have been a smarter choice for the good of the book. But, like I said, I don't get to make those decisions. Well, it's the pre-launch page is up right now. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to do is get people to go there. There's a short video that I made that's like a teaser trailer kind of thing. I'm going to have when it goes live, I'm going to have a much more elaborate trailer done for that. But it's probably going to go live actually to the point where you can actually order the book. Mid-August is my goal. I've got some traveling to do. I'm doing a show in Kansas City here in a week and a half, and then I'm going to be in Tennessee for a Free Comic Book Day, which I guess is a weekend of August 14th this year. And so I want to make sure that I'm back in town, so when I launch it, I can do all the appearances and push it like crazy on my live stream. I don't want it launching, the first week of August and me leaving town for a week. That's not very smart. So that's the goal, is to have it to go live in mid-August.
Well, it sounds very exciting. I went to the page. It says in 1883, a mysterious hero with a dark past hunts monsters and serves up violent justice.
Yes.
Now that sounds like some action-oriented monster comic book storytelling.
Yeah, I combined. I tend to mash genres as much as I can, and so it's really it's a superhero story, but it's a monster story. But it's a redemption story, and it's a Western, and so this was originally a concept that I'd come up with in the mid '90s to revamp the Marvel's Western Ghost Rider, and it didn't go over, and so I revamped it to make it my own character, and it's been kind of sitting around, and I've been working on it, the script on and off for every year. You're like, this is the year I'm going to do it, and then that year would pass. Well, next year I'm going to do it, So I've been working on the script, and I finally said, well, now is actually the time I'm going to do it. So it's a 72-page graphic novel. So it's going to be a little bit more than what you'd get in a 3-issue miniseries, right? And the character is sort of, I guess, in simplest terms, is sort of a Batman of the Old West. He's a master of disguise. He's a master of illusion. He's a detective as much as you can be, in that period of time. And, but he's got some troubling stuff in his past that is sort of affects his behavior. And we're not really sure, is this guy crazy? Is he really on a mission from God? Or, is he really, what's really going on there? And he has an Alfred character, this female named Esther, who is a Salvation Army worker that he has kind of recruited into working with him. And they have a very sort of strange and tenuous relationship that's sort of kind of one of the driving subplots that's going on in throughout the story, and how their relationship is going to end up, as well as them just, trying to track this group of werewolves, or a single werewolf, because it starts to get pared down as we go. And I guess basically in a nutshell, there's an old English monster hunter who has fled Europe and is hiding out in this small town in Arizona in 1883. And he has this amulet that, if a werewolf possesses the amulet, they're impervious to harm in their bestial form, right? So in other words, once they turn into a werewolf, even silver bullets aren't going to kill them when they have this amulet in their possession, right? So obviously this would be a prized possession by any number of werewolves, whoever can get to it. And so he's tracking these werewolves who are going after this amulet, and we don't really know who the werewolves are. We have some suspects, and so that's the wraith is trying to decipher in sort of a Batman kind of way who the werewolves are and stop them before they get this amulet. And he's trying to get the amulet before they get the amulet. And there's a host of very interesting and strange characters, and you're not sure who's who really in all of this. And that's part of the fun of it as well. So it's
a little mystery to it.
Yeah, there's murder, there's mystery, there's plenty of what you would consider grounded superhero hijinks, because he doesn't have superpowers, obviously, but he does have quite a bit of stuff at his disposal. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's I like to kind of challenge myself, and whenever you're talking about doing a genre story that has a lot of horses in it and a lot of costumes, and now you're not just drawing New York City, which we can all do from memory. You're drawing an Old West town, so now I've got to pull some reference, and the inking style, I want it to be a little bit rougher so that it more reflects and feels more like a spaghetti Western, as opposed to a real slick superhero story with Superman or something. So there's a lot of elements in it that are challenging to me, which helps me not to fall into kind of this just get it done mode. It's like like again, when I referenced Amethyst earlier, that was a real challenge for me working on Amethyst, because it was every page was a new world, and it was a new place we'd never been before, with costumes, and I had to come up with all that stuff, and I had to do it on schedule, and it was a real challenging job. But instead of looking at it and going, oh, I'm working on Amethyst, this is never going to sell, I was like, I'm working on Amethyst, and it's really going to stretch me as a designer and artistically. And so I kind of took it on like that as a challenge. And that kind of motivated me while I was doing it. And it's the same thing with this Wraith of God story. It's a fun challenge for me to kind of do stuff that I have not been used to doing, and in a way that I haven't been used to doing it. So I'm really excited about it. And hopefully it's the first stage to more stuff that I have planned. Obviously this has to succeed first, but I've got more stuff planned. It sort of ties into a Lopresti verse, if you will, of different characters and things. So this is the first step to the launching of the Lopresti verse.
So you mentioned werewolves a couple of times.
Yeah.
Are those the only monsters, or are there going to be some other monsters that maybe we're aware of, or maybe we've seen before, but your version?
Yeah, this particular storyline, this is not it's a completed, the story arc, we'll call it, is completed in this graphic novel. It doesn't leave you hanging or anything like that, but it leaves the door open for more adventures with his character. So in this particular story arc, it's just werewolves, but I've got a vampire story with him. I've got some other stuff that I could use with the character. But in this particular instance, this is just this story of this werewolf hunting that he's doing, trying to stop them.
So if people are excited about this, they can go to the Indiegogo page, the pre-page that's up right now. Do you have a mailing list? Should they just sign up there? What should they do if they want to be on top of it and be able to support this on day one? Because it sounds like it's going to be fun.
Yeah, you go to Indiegogo and sign up there on there's a where you put in your email address there and just kind of like pre-sign up for it, and then that allows me to have their names and everything. And so then when I have new information, I can send out these email blasts to everybody and let them know, oh yeah, it's live now, and you can get this, or this is available now, that kind of thing. And allows me to, if I want to send out something like a newsletter or maybe just an art preview or something like that I can shoot it out to them. So that it's a good way to, you're not committing at this point to spending any money. You're just committing to getting to know more about the project and giving me an idea of a database of who is interested in this project, and the numbers that I might have associated with it. I've got some stuff since we're on StreamYard, I can actually, we can screen share a little bit, right?
That is correct. You want to screen share? We'll take some previews.
Yeah, let me
sneak peek.
That's the primary cover, I guess you'd say, although I guess that's going to depend on, how many people order of each cover would depend on which one ends up being the primary cover. But this was the first one I did, and I've got my little Empire Comics logo there, so that's going to be sort of the banner under which I released this stuff under is Empire Comics. But I penciled, inked, and colored that myself. So I'm hoping that I don't have to do that when the thing launches. I hope that I can hire a colorist, because I'm extremely slow. And I was, if I raised enough money, I was going to hire an inker as well, but I may end up doing that myself, because the guys I wanted to use may not be available. So,
are you doing old school art? Are you doing it, on paper, or is this digital?
I don't do digital. I don't do digital.
Thank goodness.
I frown on digital. I'm
fight the good fight.
Yeah, I'm all old school all the way till the day I die. I get the idea that there's you can save time, and it's more efficient. But I don't like the idea that I spend all the time working on something and it's just on a computer chip, that there's no tangible art, I'm just, I've got to have the art, Let me show you one other one.
Now we're hitting me in the field spots. I'm digging this one.
Yeah, that it's funny. I I think the first one is a really great piece of art. I really love it. But this is the cover that when I show it, people are like, "Oh, I got to get that one. I got to get that one."
The damsel in distress. You got the hero taking out the werewolf. Now we're talking.
Yeah, and you've got that 1972, I believe it was, when Marvel did it for about a year. They did that kind of box art on the cover like that, and you've got the the Marvel stripe across the top there, and so people really kind of dig. And this isn't based on a particular Gil Kane cover, but that's sort of the idea. Is kind of how would Gil Kane approach this, because he was the main cover artist in that period for Marvel when they were doing these, so I tried to do it kind of in a style that Gil might have approached this cover in, with the girl in the foreground looking back over his shoulder, and of course you've got he always had to sort of hunch the superhero because he had such limited room in that box, to kind of fit him in there. So I've got, kind of got the wraith there kind of reeling back, almost on his knees to fit in there. And so, yeah, it was a real blast working on that. And I was going to get another artist to do it. I was just going to do the one cover, then I was going to have two other artists do it. But then I got this idea for this, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm doing this.
You want to miss out on the fun. This is
right. I'm not doing this to somebody else, man. I'm doing it. So, which of course saved me money, because now I only have to pay one artist to do a cover and instead of two. But anyway, so those are the two covers I have right now. That's and I do have a little bit of interior art if you want to see that. That's actually page 2 from the graphic novel. I was working on messing around with stylistically a little bit, because I wanted to, this is all pretty much inked in pen. Of course, I filled in the black areas with a brush, but most of this is pen because I wanted to get kind of you can't really see it probably as well on the screen. Let me see if I can get in there a little bit tighter so you can see kind of that cross hatching and stuff going on there. That's all kind of pen stuff, and this line work here is brush, but a lot of this is pen in here because I just wanted kind of a rougher, sort of chunkier style to it, for lack of a better word, and to sort of capture that, like I said, that spaghetti western, old west sort of feel to it. And I was able to do this actually fairly quickly. When I ink with a brush and I'm trying to be super controlled and every line has to be perfect kind of thing, that's a long, arduous process. But if I'm going in there and not necessarily treating these like, convention sketches, but going in with a mindset that it's going to be a little bit looser, a little bit rougher stylistically. And it's much easier, it's much quicker to ink with a pen because it's like handling a pencil. Whereas a brush is a totally different thing, and it requires a much more, slower and controlled approach. This I can just kind of go in and draw with the pen over the top of the pencils, and the pencils can be a little bit rougher, and then you do the finishes with the inks, and it makes the process a little bit quicker, so that it will enable me to pencil and ink this in a timely fashion and get it done. So that people aren't waiting, a year for it.
Nice.
Even though it
looks
72.
Fantastic. I will say this, there will be a link and all the information will be in the video description for people that want to sign up to get the information regarding the project. You mentioned something else earlier, Aaron. You said you had a backlog of commissions that you were working on. They had a time to catch up on it. If I or maybe one of the viewers were interested in maybe having a commission of Man-Thing squaring off with, I don't know, the Terminator or something, would that be something that you would actually be able to do nowadays?
Yeah, doing commissions right now are sort of part of my financial plan. And because I'm not working on a regular book right now, other than things are going to change when I start drawing Wraith of God regularly. But as right now, I'm a little bit behind again. I don't have a huge list because I've gotten through most of it. But I've been doing so much promotional work for this book the last couple of weeks. I haven't really done any commission work other than stuff I've done on my live stream. And I do 11 by 17 full color pieces that I can only do on my drawing table. It's not something I can do on my lap and live stream. So, but I do take commissions. Actually, I did it not too long ago. A guy wanted Sludge versus Swamp Thing. And I did that for him. That was a fun piece to do. And but I think I've only got like 2 or 3 people on my list right now. So yeah, people can contact me through Facebook, on Twitter, even Instagram. I'm Aaron Lopresti. I don't have any funky, avatar name or anything. It's just if you go to Twitter at Aaron Lopresti, you'll find me. If you go to Facebook, Aaron Lopresti, you'll find me. If you go to Instagram, I'm Aaron Lopresti. That's it. And or you can contact me my email is aaron@aaronlopresti.com. So again, if you can spell my name, you can find me. And you also can get through my website, which is surprisingly enough, aaronlopresti.com. I have email, through my website as well. So I'm pretty actually easy to get a hold of if you can spell my name correctly, which is a trick because a lot of people misspell Aaron all the time. So you got to be
on the screen.
There it is. 2 A's, RON is how you find me. So, but yeah,
I can tell you this: if you've been wanting commission and you've got an insane monster that you needed to draw, this is the man that you're going to want to do. Nobody's going to do monsters in comic books quite like Aaron Lopresti. And right. He's got openings right now. So now is the time to let him know.
Now's the time, because once I start drawing Wraith of God full-time, probably in September sometime, that's going to be my focus. So I won't be able to be doing a lot of commissions past that. So,
well, Aaron, I do want to say thank you very much for joining me today. We covered a gamut of issues and had a lot of fun talking about the project here at the end. Maybe, hopefully, some people will reach out and you can do some commissions because you've done some fabulous work on monsters. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to the viewers here before we wrap this up?
Well, yeah, I do want to, I want to plug one other thing. I have my Garbage Man trade paperback that Dark Horse has put together for me. That was something I was looking at crowdfunding a couple of years ago and it didn't work out, but Dark Horse is doing it. And it's available for pre-order right now through Amazon, or you can do it through your local comic shop. And again, it's Dark Horse is publishing it, and it's going to be out in November. The interesting thing about it is it takes all my work that I did for DC, which is about 120 pages of story. And but I also, because Batman appeared in Garbage Man, I had to take Batman out, obviously, because I can't print Batman on my own. So I introduced some new characters that replace Batman in the story that are from my Lopresti verse, for lack of a better thing. And so those characters are actually debuting in this trade appearances. Yeah, so you've got 18 pages of new material along with integrated in with the older reprint stuff. And this stuff has never been collected or reprinted before, so it's not like there's a DC trade out there of this already. This is the first time, and probably the only time it'll be collected. And it does have the new material and the debut of the new super team that replaces Batman in the story. And there's some pinup stuff in there too. So the whole thing's about 134 pages. It's a real nice collected edition. So I would like people to try and check that out if they can as well. But other than that, I think that about covers it for me.
I will do my best to find the diamond code on the Garbage Man trade paperback from Dark Horse. That should be in the video description. If it's not there, it's because I couldn't find it. It's not because I didn't try. I'll try and get it in there, Aaron. Thank you so much. Hopefully we can have you back here on the channel. And once the project is live, you can come back, maybe talk about how it's going, and maybe give a few more samples out there.
Yeah, I absolutely will, Wes. Thank you so much for having me, and I will be glad to come back anytime.